As acting Sergeant at Arms, I, Louis Denbaum, call this meeting to order. And I'd like to call up our president, Dennis Gomez.
Welcome everybody, Toastmasters, viewers at home, and honored guests. It's great to have you. Can we start actually with a minute or so? Could you tell us your name, introduce yourself quick, and then
Yes, sure.
what you would like to hear from Toastmasters?
Yes, hi, I'm Zaina from Jordan. I was studying computer science at Compro in Maharishi University. Then now I'm working at Global ID as software developer.
Excellent.
Yeah.
It's a great job to have. I would like to state the mission of the club. The mission of a Toastmasters club is to provide a mutually supportive and positive learning environment in which every member has the opportunity to develop communication and leadership skills, which in turn foster moral self-confidence and personal growth. It's our duty as officers to do our best to promote these values and make sure everybody grows to the best potential they can, speaking in public, and their communication skills. Without further ado, I would like to give a warm welcome to our Toastmaster of the evening, Louis Denbaum.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President. Welcome, everyone, club members, our distinguished guests, and viewers at home. We have a theme today, and that is education, because many schools are back in session, or will shortly be back in session. And this is from Sidney J. Harris, who said the whole purpose of education is to turn mirrors into windows. I love that quote, actually. I'm not sure what he meant by it, but for me, education is looking in the mirror and seeing what's going on for me. What am I hiding from? What am I afraid of? What do I want to accomplish? And then if I switch that mirror around, it's a door out into the world to use what I discovered in the mirror for my own objectives and those objectives of society. Now I will introduce the role players for this evening. First, our timer, Dennis. Please tell us about your role.
Thank you. I will be timing everybody's speech, and I will make sure that they are within the limits as they are assigned. We will be having some prepared speeches tonight. We have Emery Styron, and it looks like we have Marco Yanni. Also, almost got it first time. So we will be having the green light go on at 5 minutes, yellow light at 6 minutes, red light at 7. Likewise, we have table topics, and for that we will have the green light go on at 1 minute, yellow light at 1.5 minutes, red light at 2 minutes, and you have half an hour until 2:30, and then, sorry, half a minute. Big difference there. Good catch, good catch. And then, if you go over 2:30, you're out, disqualified. So remember that. So basically pay attention to this. Light bulb right there, and I'll make sure everybody is within the correct time and report.
Okay, thank you, Dennis. Next, our grammarian, Alex. Please tell us about your role, Alex.
I will be keeping track of the strengths and the weaknesses of the speakers, and it is only my opinion. I'll also be introducing the word of the day, which is illustrious, well-known. It means well-known, respected, admired for past achievements, an illustrious career. The example, Margaret Thatcher's illustrious service in the British government warranted a biographical movie and a funeral with high honors. If you can use this in any of your speeches, we will make note of that. Why this is important is because you want to know when you're doing something right. That way you're encouraged to do more of it. And you want to know when you're doing something wrong. That way you can cut it out. It's also important for me to increase my listening skills. Dennis?
Thank you, Alex. Jean Symington Craig is our ah counter. Jean, please tell us about your role. Welcome.
I will be counting filler words for the evening. These are words that we use to hide the fact that we're not particularly comfortable with spaces and pauses in between our words. Much better to pause than to put in a filler word. Filler words, examples, like, you know, so, but, and is often used to just run things together on and on and on, so it sounds like one long sentence connected with ands. Tongue clicks, we seem to have gotten that into our mix. A Xerox, which I believe is a repetition in the middle of a sentence, and then a false start is a repetition at the beginning of a sentence. Is that your understanding?
I'm not clear on it, Jean.
Because Xeroxes and false starts to me are what we commonly call double dribbles. So you double dribbled on your phraseology wherever it appears. However, I will follow this. And then if you have any custom filler words that you particularly like to use, now is one sometimes, then I'll make note of that as well, and I'll give a report at the end of the meeting.
Very good. Thank you, Jean. Dan Craig is our general evaluator, and we will hear from him later when he will run the evaluation section of our meeting. He's also our illustrious videographer.
Yes.
And Leslie Hollis was our greeter and will be our joke master, and we will hear from her at the end of the meeting. And now we start the prepared speeches section of our meeting. We have two types of speeches here. Prepared speeches, where people pick a topic and they've worked for days, maybe weeks on end, preparing for this moment when they give that speech. And later on tonight, we will have impromptu speeches, 1 to 2 minute speeches, where we just call on people. Maybe we'll even call on our guests, who knows, to speak off the cuff, so to speak. I'd like to call up Art Atkinson, who is the evaluator for our first speaker. Art, please come up and introduce the first speaker. Thank you, Art.
Thanks, Louis. This evening, Emery is going to deliver a humorous speech. His title is Totality Times 2. Emery is a freelance journalist, illustrious, no doubt, living with his wife Virginia in Mount Pleasant. And they have recently, as he puts it, finished raising up 6 children. Within the last few days, they delivered this latest of the 6 children to college and saw a total eclipse of the sun. Hence, he feels that he's seen totality twice over within a short period of time. So his title, Totality Times 2, or 5 Things My Children Taught Me. His project is to use every one of the delivery devices that he's learned so far to deliver a humorous speech based on exaggeration of facts or opinion. So exaggeration is the key to this particular project. Of course, he'll use vocal variety and plenty of excellent gestures and body language and phraseology and everything possible to entertain us, the primary objective of this talk. So now,
Which manual is this, and which?
this is an advanced manual named Humorously Speaking. Thank you for that.
And the project.
This is a project, I believe, number 5
What's it called?
in that manual. So here we go with 5 things my children taught me.
But what's the name of the project? I'm sorry, what's the name of the project?
Keep them laughing.
Keep them laughing. Okay.
The project number changed from number 4 to 5
Right, but there's usually a
this afternoon.
project name for the thing. That's what I was asking.
Let's move on.
Just keep them laughing, keep them laughing.
Project name, The Humorous Speech is what it says in the minute.
For project 5, okay. Okay, thank you. I
Let's
appreciate it.
welcome Emery Styron.
I'd like to thank my illustrious evaluator for that introduction. Totality number 1, as Art said. On Sunday, my wife and I took our 6th and youngest child to Iowa Falls, where she's beginning her college career at Ellsworth Community College. Totality number 2, to celebrate this milestone in our lives, we drove to Central Missouri to witness the solar eclipse. In the whole combined experience, we're tired from our trip. We're tired from raising children since 1979. So we feel totaled. If you've had any dealings with insurance companies and wrecked cars, it's when the company says, this car is beyond repair. Well, that's how we feel. But we're hoping that after a few months of this empty nest experience, we'll look at things differently. We'll be invigorated, we hope. 6 children. We didn't intend it that way. My wife comes from a farm family. She's one of 7 children. I come from a small town family. I'm one of 6 children. So we well knew better. But somehow it happened. I think that children just kind of move in when you're looking the other way. You take up residence in your life. Sort of like the old Star Trek episodes. Do you remember when the crew of the Starship Enterprise would realize that an alien life form is lurking somewhere up on the starship?
Yeah.
Kids are like that. And then there's another thing about child raising that kind of relates to Star Trek. There's a time warp. On the one hand, it seems to take forever to get them through infancy and kindergarten and grade school and middle school and college and post-college. And you think at some point you're going to reclaim whatever it was, whoever you were before this all started. But on the other hand, it's over in the blink of an eye. 1 second, you've got this little infant, you're burping on your shoulder. Then the next second, you're losing a screaming match with a zit-faced adolescent. And the next second, you're waving goodbye to this self-assured young adult who's standing out in front of her college dormitory. Science has never explained how this could take forever and be over in a split second. But it happens. I don't know how many of you have children or have had children or are planning to have children. But before I became a parent, I thought of the job in terms of what I could teach my children. But having gone through it, I realize it's almost as much about what they teach you. So I want to share with you tonight 5 things I have learned from my children. Number 1, resilience. They are tougher than you think. An example, when my son Jackson was 6, he had a pet lizard, Lizzie, who was ailing. And I was so worried that when Lizzie kicked the bucket, Jackson would be devastated. And how would I find the words to comfort him and help him through this crisis in his life? I came to find out soon that I need not have worried. One day his cousin was over and they were out in the yard playing, and I heard happy sounds. I looked out the window and he and Cole were playing catch with Lizzie's lifeless carcass. They were having a great time. Well, it later turned out that Lizzie wasn't actually expired. She had just gone into a comatose state. And she recovered. So it turns out that lizards, like children, are more resilient than you. Number two, the things you think are so crucial as you form your children's experiences and character may not be as crucial as you would believe. Case in point, we spent a fortune so that our kids could go to the 1996 Summer Olympics in Atlanta, so we could go on a Disney cruise, so we could take them on a tour of southern France. Did we get any thanks? Did we see any payoff? No. About all we heard was that you really messed up our summer plans with our friends. But the things that they still talk about as 30-somethings is me playing my old guitar and singing "You Get a Line, I'll Get a Pole, Honey," and going to the donut shop on Saturday morning with their parents. Number three, as a parent, when you get really angry, do not yell. Whisper. It really gets their attention. And it scares the hell out of the little bird. Another thing is that by allowing time for your emotions to cool, you may avoid saying something you'll have to apologize for later. And that brings up number four. When you screw up as a parent, and you will screw up as a parent, don't be afraid to apologize. It clears the air. And I've found that children are very forgiving, at least in the short term. And number five, children will do things that leave you speechless. So you're telling me that you drove your car out onto the pond to check the thickness of the ice. When you can, if you can, tell them you love them. Tell them you're proud of them. Probably not on that one. And if you can't say anything, hug them. In many cases, hugs are better than words. How many of you are planning to have children? Well, I'd like to say to you, good luck, because you're going to need it. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Everett. Mr. Timer, please count off 2 minutes as we all take 2 minutes to evaluate Emery's talk. Thank you very much. Welcome back. I'd now like to call up Jean Symington Craig, who is our next evaluator. Jean.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Our next speaker is going to be the illustrious Marko Janich. Marko is going to be he's doing his second Competent Communicator Manual, and he's doing project number 9, which is Persuade with Power. The objectives for Marko's speech is to persuade listeners to adopt his viewpoint or ideas, or to take some action. He is also to appeal to the audience's interests. He's to use logic and emotion to support his position, and to avoid using notes. Those are the things you'll be watching for as Marco works his speech. Marco was born and raised in Serbia in the eastern part of Europe in the capital city, Belgrade. He graduated from high school with a diploma in ecology, and after that he attended and finished college, University of Forestry in Belgrade, majoring in environmental engineering. Marco moved with his family to Philadelphia, USA in July 12th. I guess Philadelphia is pretty much, I think there are other Philadelphias actually, but yes, the one in Pennsylvania. In January 2016, he visited Fairfield, Iowa, where he really enjoyed it and decided to come back in August 2016. And now he works at the MUM Recreation Center, where he manages the staff and the equipment. Marco is passionate about spiritual and personal growth. His title this evening is Let Go. Please help me warmly welcome the illustrious Marco Janic.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters, viewers at home, and guests. It was October 2016, just before I went to study in a recreation center. I loved to go every possible chance I had and climb the wall. That day, I just so excited to be there and climb the wall. I got my shoes on, harness, everything. And I climbed a few times. That was really good. I actually climbed every path. I didn't even know I was that talented for that. And also pumped, energized about how good I was. I sit on the side and let other people to do and just observe. But sometimes my ass doesn't want to be calm and always want to do something. So there was a because this is a gymnastic area as well. There was two poles for gymnastics. Let me paint it for you. One was the height like this, maybe a little higher like this, and a few feet away was the lower one, maybe height like this. And many times before I was there, I would imagine how I grab the higher one and I throw my legs above the lower one and just let it go and slide through. And that all played well in my head, and I knew it's possible. I knew I could do this. It's really, I did so many things that they're more advanced than this. But there was something back in my head that was holding me back, and I really wasn't sure what it was. But I never was a person that wanted to be held back by fear, so I wanted to try it. I came, I stand in front of the pole, I grab it. I took a step back and I swing forward. And my legs fly into air. My legs went above the lower pool. My ass went to the lower pool. My lower back went to the lower pool. But my middle back then went across the lower pool. I was still holding back, and that moment I just heard crack, and it was crack like I never heard in my life. At that moment, I felt immense pain, and I saw, my God, they broke my back. What happened? And I couldn't move. I just stayed there, positioned like this. There were people there climbing the wall, and I didn't want to make any noise. I didn't know what was going on, and I just let it go and I fall on the ground. And I couldn't move. And one girl saw me and just ran to me and said, "Marco, are you okay?" I said, "I don't know." And I couldn't move for a while. But thanks to God, I was okay. I went with a lot of pain for next month, actually a few months. Couldn't move so much, but it was such a big lesson for me. And I always, from time to time, look back and say, where did I do wrong? Why it wasn't successful? What happened? So my body wanted to go forward. But my mind was holding back by fear, and that was the problem. I didn't saw myself clearly moving forward. I didn't saw myself clearly doing it. I didn't let go. But I realized what was missing the most is that the most ingredient to all successful life, to all life, is trust. I didn't trust into myself. I didn't trust what I was doing. And I was trying to move forward, holding back. And whenever you try to do something like that in life, you better stay at the back. You're gonna went through less pain than try to move forward, holding back. And for me, that's a good analogy for that. Is imagine that you have a car, and you have a wheel in front, you have a gas, and you have a regular brake. But in the middle of the car, somewhere behind you, is usually it's emergency brake. And sometimes in life, we want to do things with emergency brake on. Every pressing that pedal to the metal, the wheels turning out, turning the tires smoking, but we cannot move anywhere. And sometimes we just have to grab that brake and just let it go, let it down, and we will just fly off. I had many instances and good examples for that in my own life where I tried to achieve something and I was holding back. And I realized whatever I do, even if it's in speaking, even when I was coming here to show up to speak, I have a really good intention to speak, but I was so afraid. I had so many things in my head. Oh, I'm going to use my voice, everybody's going to hear me, I'm going to use my body. But I stand here and then I was all consumed by fear. I couldn't move. You know, one of the biggest lessons I learned, you cannot do anything in life worthwhile if you don't trust. And nothing in this, on our planet at least, it's not successfully achieved without trust. Any illustrious or worthwhile achievement from a humankind. Wilbur brothers, they couldn't create a plane if they didn't trust. Thomas Edison, he couldn't create a light bulb if he didn't trust it's possible. There is no successful marriage if there is no trust between. There is no successful society. But most of all, there is no successful person if he doesn't trust in himself. And when I say successful, whatever success is for you, in your own description. But for me, it's a life on your own terms. Life of happiness, abundance, joy, and love. And a very wise man said, I would rather live a life with trust and trust other people and be betrayed than live a life of misery and distrust. It was Abraham Lincoln. So I close with this. Trust yourself. Don't make assumptions what is possible for you and who you are, because you are so much greater than you can ever imagine.
Mr. Timer, please give us 2 minutes so that we can all take time to evaluate. Thank you, Mr. Timer. Welcome back, everyone. Mr. Timer, did our 2 speakers qualify?
No, neither one did.
Neither one did.
Oh my gosh.
Both over time.
Okay, well then we'll vote for the 2 people anyway, because exactly, they're the best of the 2 losers, as she said. The most illustrious of the people, of the speakers that went over. That we know. So please, you have ballots on your chair. And please rip off the section that says speaker. And do we have anyone acting as ballot counter tonight? I would now like to call up Dan Craig, who's our general evaluator, who will run the evaluation section of the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, viewers at home. Now is the portion of the meeting where we move to the evaluations. We've had our illustrious speakers. We want to hear some feedback from the people that were assigned to evaluate them, to hear what they did well, hear suggestions on what they could do to improve. Our first evaluator is going to be Art Atkinson, who's evaluating Emery's speech. Please welcome Art.
So totality times 2. I'll go through the points of the evaluators. God. First of all, I was entertained. Could I see a show of hands? Who else? It was the primary purpose of the speech is to entertain. Were you entertained? Could I see hands? It's virtually unanimous. There were chuckles and outright guffaws. What made the speech humorous, in my opinion, in particular, it was your choice of words, Emery. Carcass, total, and it was the conjunction of some of these words that they're used in an unusual context, like my wife and I were totaled from the experience of raising these 6 children, likening it to a car wreck that there's no remaining value. How well did the jokes and stories fit the theme of the speech? Well, they fitted well. Emery seems to have a patented folksy humor,
I know.
of which this speech was another one of these illustrious examples. And it was beautifully done. The stories fit the theme. None of the stories seemed awkward. That's one of the questions. None of the jokes seemed awkward to me at all. They fit. And you put the stories and jokes together smoothly. It flowed smoothly, except for the one instance when you looked at your notes. What could Emery have done to improve the speech? Well, the project focuses on exaggeration as a technique for humor. And I had the distinct impression, as you were giving this speech, that we were hearing actual reality, that they did actually toss this nearly dead lizard back and forth. That wasn't an exaggeration, that actually happened. I had the feeling that the car actually did go out on the ice, and the explanation actually was, well, I wanted to test the thickness of the ice. Among the things that I could imagine doing to exaggerate would, you did what? Most of your hand gestures were with the elbows right here tucked in close. And there was one time when you had good, pantomime of playing guitar. but the hand gestures were not large, they were small. And the vocal variety, at a point like that, you miss the opportunity to just like completely dumbfounded explode. But you said they left me speechless. So I'm going to grant you that possibility. So what I would have done to this speech to make it even stronger was really crank up the exaggeration feature, at least to satisfy this particular project. As an example of your patented, gentle, folksy humor, it was brilliant. And I look forward to more of that, too. Ms. General.
Thank you, Art. Our second evaluator tonight for prepared speeches is Jean Symington Craig, who's going to give us an evaluation of Marco's speech.
Fellow Toastmasters, Marco, particularly Marco, our general evaluator. I'm going to read through the objectives for project number 9, Persuade with Power, give some comments. Again, it's always my personal opinion. Marco can use it or not, depending on what he wants to do with it. But my desire is to help. Did the speaker project sincerity and conviction? I felt he did. He looked very sincere and very connected to the audience. Was the speaker a credible source of information about this topic? Well, it was personal stories. So he's going to be credible because it's his story and he was there. He would know. Did the speaker phrase his or her appeal in terms of the audience's self-interest? I said yes, he would, because he did, because we are all interested in how to be successful and not to sabotage ourselves with fear. So even though he didn't directly put that out, I think he felt that that's something that we could all relate to fairly quickly. It is something I'd like to suggest, if there is a message or there's something that's going to be said, to give a taste of it at the front so that the audience has a sense of where are we going with this, and it kind of sets up the speech. Did the speech opening capture the audience's interest? I put between satisfactory and excellent. I really liked, here it was the day, I was in the gym, and I thought, but I felt it was a little soft. So I would like to suggest to Marco that it's a little more energetic, particularly because it was such a physical scene. This is one of my main comments, is that he's in the gym, he's climbing stuff, he's pumping, he's getting ready, he's looking at this equipment, and he's getting ready. I just would like to see him get into it and paint it out, because the rest of the speech is going to be a little more inward, and like, so he's got a real opportunity to make it physical there, and it'll be a nice contrast to what's going to happen later. Did the speaker use facts and logical reasoning to support his or her views? Didn't really have to use facts. He didn't really, but he used stories that then led to conclusions. So that was organized that way. Did the speaker properly use emotion to persuade the audience to support his or her views? His views. We can determine that you are a his, right? Okay. His views. Yes, I think we did. He let us know he was very concerned about what happened. Everyone has had that whoops moment when something goes terribly wrong. I was wondering if he was going to make it out. Of course, I was reassured because there he was. But it was on the edge of my seat a little bit. So that was very good. Was the speech organization effective? Yes, it was chronological and then gave some overviews and conclusions. Body language, I already talked about that. Vocal variety. So let me just see. I would like to see him use stronger on the quiet. He was very good when he got loud. There was a point where he said, I'm worried about vocal variety and like that. But when he got quiet, I almost couldn't quite hear him, and I'm in the front row, and I have very good hearing. So I would just say, don't lose it on the quiet part. He had good repetition of letting go throughout the speech. That was very good, tied back to his title. And he also had a good call to action to trust ourselves. Well done.
Thank you, Jean. At this point, we're going to move on to the tabletop topic section of the meeting. Our substitute table topics master is our Toastmaster, Louis Denbaum.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. Table topics, a way to speak impromptu. It's also a way to give people who don't have a speaking role tonight a chance to speak. We have about time, I'd say, for maybe 3 or 4 speakers, according to the schedule.
Schedule has it's ending at 9 o'clock. We'll
Oh,
still have enough.
thank you.
So
Thank
we
you
need
for
to-
pointing that out. Okay, great, fantastic. We got a lot of time for table topics. Okay, so, and I'm going to stick with the theme of education. Who would like to go first? Particularly someone who doesn't have a speaking role, and guests are invited, although I'd like to see one of the club members go first so the guests can see how it's done. Okay, Dennis.
Okay.
All right. What would you like to change in our educational system? What would you like to change in our educational system?
Excellent. What I would like to change in our education system is making people think as much as possible for themselves in depth. Right now we have way too much worksheets passed out by a few big companies that seem to be conveniently profiting off education at the moment, and they pass out worksheets where people fill in the blank. That's not an education, that's regurgitation. What we need is a system that produces more illustrious scientists, engineers, academics, professionals, lawyers, doctors, you name it, politicians too. We need people who are going to be able to speak better, who are going to be able to do better, and to do that we need to make kids read and write, not just fill out worksheets. They need to do more project-based learning. All this stuff sounds really ideal. I know everybody talks about it. I think we have some ideas coming through with different institutions such as Khan Academy, such as the students that we see going to different public schools who have input for their teachers. I think we need a combination, just like with the government, you often need a combination between left wing and right wing in order to get a good compromise that gets the best for the overall population. In education, you need a combination of the more routine, strict, these are fundamentals, learn it, if need, memorize it, and you need more of the Khan Academy approach of being able to do creative projects and actually think. Don't just fill out worksheets. You need to write essays, you need to make projects a bigger priority to prepare American education and American students to be the best in the world and keep being the best in the world at what they do. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. That didn't look so bad. He lived through it.
Come on, Alex.
Okay, who's next? Alex? Welcome. Okay. Alex, tell us, what would you like to go back to school or go anywhere you can to an academy or some place to learn? What are you dying to learn about?
What I'm dying to learn about is leadership, public speaking. A lot of these skills I'm learning here with you all. You've all seen me come up from a little baby to volunteering for my table topics. These skills I think are extremely important today. I think a lot of kids are lacking the leadership and the courage to fulfill and reach their potential. I think public speaking will give you that, the confidence, the courage to do bigger and better things. As far as leadership, this is a huge skill that I think needs to be worked on, not only by myself, but my kids. I am a parent. I'm here to increase my leadership potential so that I can demonstrate to my children that they have the same leadership potential in them. This is going out of your comfort zone. I would have to say that leadership is going out of your comfort zone in front of your kids. I wish that mine were here to see me doing this right now, to see how uncomfortable it can be. Life experience, so many things that I want to learn and go back to school for, I am learning here at this moment. Thank you.
Okay, now that we've had 3 club members, I mean, either of our guests would like to come up, please feel free to do that. Next. Yes, come on up. Randy, okay. Randy. Okay. Randy, tell us about your best or your worst teacher. Tell us about your best or worst teacher.
My best teacher. My best teacher came from India in 1976, I believe. And he came at the behest of a couple who lived in Orange County, California, to spread a knowledge, an understanding of life to the West, to people who might find it fascinating, interesting, beneficial. To give them a grounding away from the materialistic life that they were living totally, and an awareness that he had of truth. So he gave to me a hand, a gentle hand, that pulled me toward him, not to worship him, but to worship his teacher, which he now manifested in his giving of knowledge, that which he had received. So through my life, I chose to be, to live, to know the knowledge that he gave out. And it's been a trek. It's been a real adventure. From Los Angeles to Vancouver to Fairfield, Iowa. I mean, who would have thought? When I told my kids we were going to Fairfield, Iowa, you think they jumped up and said, "Oh boy, we're going to Fairfield." You know, no. My eldest said, "Not going. I'm moving in with a friend." He was in high school. At any rate, it's been a beautiful experience. Being here was the most beautiful experience of my lifetime, with my kids growing up and learning this knowledge as well as myself at the same time. And would come home and give me knowledge that I just loved and was enamored with. So thank you so much.
Okay, we got plenty of time. All right, come on up. Yes,
Well, I was going to say it'd be worth explaining to the guests that you do have 30 seconds
sure.
at the beginning.
Please stand up and explain everything that the guests need to know that I left out.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know, I'm sorry, I got carried away.
Yeah. When we do table topics, we hear the question and we may not have understood what we were going to be speaking about until we heard it. And we have up to 30 seconds to think about and organize what it is that we may choose to say.
I thought
You launched right into it,
Yeah.
but so did Dennis, who demonstrated, so did,
Oh,
now Alex took a little time to think. So it's always up to 30 seconds that you can think to organize. And then the other thing to watch is what we call the timing light, which tells us there are 1 to 2 minute speeches. When the green light goes on at 1 minute, we know we've spoken enough to be a qualifier when the judging and the best of the evening comes along. So there's a minimum of a minute speaking, and when the red light comes on at 2 minutes, we know that we have at most 30 more seconds to wrap up and be done. So you spoke eloquently and brilliantly, and the red light was on for a long time.
Let's not do an evaluation now. You're not the
Yeah.
table topics evaluator, so, but good. Thank you for
I
explaining all that.
apologize, I didn't know.
It's all right. You didn't have nothing to apologize for.
You did good.
We were using you as a teaching example
That's
because the
right.
theme is teaching.
Oh,
Okay?
Okay, I'm just like, is she like?
Now, one thing I gotta say, my pet peeve is when the green light comes on and you've kind of said all there is to say and you keep speaking, just I gotta get to that red light. No, you don't have to get to that red light, and you don't gain more points by continuing the longer you speak. In fact, in my book, if you've ran out of gas and you keep speaking, you're losing points. Because then you're just kind of like putting in fluff, and it's just like, just doesn't go anywhere. Okay, who would like to go next? Would you like to give it a try?
Yeah.
Okay, come on up. Zaina, okay. Okay, what is one really valuable lesson that you have learned in your life? What is the most valuable lesson that you have learned in your life?
Well, there is many valuable, and it depends on your experience. But I will say that for me is believe in your dream. Like I will say, as my experience to come to us from country that it's not common for girls to go to the West. Like they look it's very unsafe or dangerous. It's like not the culture and traditions. And since I'm from a conservative family, so I was like, I wanna go out and study alone, because I raised up seeing my cousins, the male, are allowed to go, but girls no, like no one in the whole family, big family, is going abroad, and I was like, why, I wanna go to US, or Europe like my cousins, but they say no, so I kept, begging my father, and he said no, and I went, let you go, and they are afraid, and then he said it's gonna cost me money, and I'm a businessman, I don't invest too much in education, like comparing if I get master in my country. So I've been for more than 1.5 years, and I'm searching on the internet looking for I'm sure there is a university somewhere who give opportunity for international students. And I was taking excuse for the education, but I want it as a life experience more than the education itself. And so I kept applying, contacting university, sending, till I found, MUM here, and So yeah, I went and I get my visa even without my family know. I get the approved and put them under the like reality. I'm coming to US. I want to go to US and live my dream there. Yeah, so that's like, and yeah, this is for me like so far. Believe in your dreams.
Okay, moving right along. We have time for at least another. Who would like to go? Leslie, I can see it in you. Oh my God, you're just like, can't wait. All right. Well, gone through all the questions, but let me double back to the one. We've heard about someone's best teacher. Tell us about your worst teacher. That teacher that was just a nightmare for you. Think of one. If not,
There's a
if
teacher.
not, you can-
Hopefully they're not watching.
Okay, good.
I value all of my teachers, so I feel a little not so sure about pointing one out as the worst. But I can say that I did have one teacher that I'm not sure if he was burnt out or if I was trying to understand why it was that he went into teaching, because it seemed like he didn't enjoy it. And so some of my favorite teachers were the teachers that imparted knowledge and fun, and it seemed like they really wanted you to learn. This particular teacher gave us quizzes that were based on things we'd never discussed. So we couldn't figure out was it a trick? Was it just fun for him to watch us kind of like treading water? Or was he just not good at teaching and just not into it? Maybe he just took it as, went through school, teaching was his track, and he did his job. So I would have to say that he was my least favorite teacher, because he didn't teach us anything. He just made us draw bad pictures of him. So, and I ended up with an art degree. So there you go.
Thank you very much. Can we get his name, please? What's his name? Okay, I think we have still plenty of time. Who else would like to come up?
Two evaluators.
Aha! We're gonna have you both come up. Who wants to go first? Jean, come on up. Okay. So, why don't you do the one also about what can we do to make our educational system better? What would you, if you were the philosopher king in charge of the education of humanity, what would you change? Or add?
Mr. Table Topics Master and fellow Toastmasters, guests and viewers at home. Secret is, I have a master's in education, so I have done some thinking about this. I am going to piggyback a little bit on Dennis, because there is a hierarchy of mental activity that a famous educator whose name is, I am forgetting right now, laid out, that says you basically, it's like a gym, and you want to have your students and people in general able to work at higher levels of thinking rather than just at the lowest level, which is memorization. So memorization would be very fundamental, and then the next step up would be maybe like a compare and a contrast. Take a principle, how does it compare to another kind of principle? That's actually several layers up. There is evaluation, which is at the top, actually. It's one of the reasons I get really excited about evaluation, is having a standard, or in our case, we have Toastmaster, we have objectives for every project, and then we look at a performance and we take it and we're able to use our brain to figure out where did that project meet the expectations or exceed them, where did it maybe need a little help, and what could we do to do that, what could we do to make that work. I think that the key to improving education is teacher education. Teachers need to be very well trained and paid for education to work. And in this country, unfortunately, that often doesn't happen. And I have a personal little theory that a lot of times education has, the younger children and all are taught by women, and women sometimes have not been paid what they're worth. But, so teacher education, what was the other one? Teacher education, and just making sure that teachers are prepared to have students work their way up that mental gym. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean. Okay, and last but not least, Art Atkinson. Art, knowing you for as long as I do, I know that you are a lifelong student. What's left for you to learn?
What's left for me to learn is the whole experience of being multilingual. I wish I had spent the time when the brain was young and really easily absorbed a second and third language. I admire multilingual skills at a very high level. And right now, I am learning Spanish. And I have the experience that there's apparently still in my mind only one compartment for foreign language. I studied 2.5 years of French in high school, and my French habits keep intruding themselves into my attempts to learn Spanish. So if somebody asks me in Spanish, ¿Cómo está usted?, I'm as likely to respond, Je vais bien, merci, et vous, as muy bien, gracias, y tú. It's difficult for me to get French and Spanish pried apart in there and separated. I'm told that this will come in time, but it ain't there yet. So what's left for me to learn is really true fluency and comfort in a second and a third language. I actually have some knowledge of colloquial Greek, some knowledge of English, some knowledge of French, a very un poquito in Espanol. And I would like to become, because of my plans to live a period of the year each year in Panama, I would like to become very comfortable speaking Spanish. And for the last couple of weeks, I had the opportunity to be immersed. And it was great. I found a lot of progress comes pretty quickly when everybody around you is speaking Spanish. Mr. Jim, Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Art. Okay, that is the conclusion of our table topics for this evening. Mr. Timer, I know you have a hard task because we had a lot of people speak tonight, table topics. First of all, read the name of each person that qualified.
For table topics.
For table topics, yes.
We have Dennis, Alex, Trejo, Randy, Zena, Leslie Hollis, Jean Symington Craig, and Art Atkinson. And
Okay.
I can name them in order with their time.
No, I don't need the time yet. That's part of your end of the meeting report. So those are the people who qualified. So now it's time to vote for the best table topic speaker of the evening. All right. And now I'd like to call up Will Burns, who's our table topics evaluator. How many is he evaluating this time?
7.
Okay, so how much time would you like? Traditionally, if we're going by the same rule that we used to have, you're entitled to...
You do 3 to 4?
I can do 3 to 4, easy.
All right, take it away.
Okay, for brevity, I'm just going to dive right in here. Dennis, you fired right into your reason. With the worksheets, Dennis, up here, man, you were comfortable, you were confident in addressing this issue. I felt like you really thought about it and you already kind of knew this was something you're passionate about. My suggestion for you is to take those 30 seconds. If you knew you wanted to mention Khan Academy, tell us a story about it at the start. You know, what it is. Just one, it can kind of hook us with a story, and 2, it will inform those of us that don't know. Now, I know what it is, I love it, I think it's awesome, but not everybody in the audience might know. Alex, something you're dying to learn about. My suggestion for you would be just those hands in the pocket. You know, I would like to see them out here, ready for deployment to impact your speech, however it goes. But you had a very powerful point about growing by embracing this discomfort and I wish your kids could see that. And I have to say that you may have felt uncomfortable, but you actually looked quite confident and comfortable up here with the topic. So good job with that. Keep it up. For Randy, I love the mystery. You're talking about a man from India who came to Orange County. You know, and Randy used very vivid language in describing how this teacher gently, carefully guided him and selflessly taught him. I felt like you had 2 stories here that you told about. One about meeting and learning from your teacher, and then one about being dragged to Fairfield and the challenges inherent in that. I think they both were great stories. I would just suggest picking one and really honing in on that. Zaina, I felt you had a great point about being a woman from a conservative family. I thought that was a very interesting sort of narrative. It sort of taps into that kind of American underdog story, you know, of having to kind of break out and freedom. I wonder why that's an American story. It's Americans kind of have a strong strength in the world. But I would have liked if you had actually taken those 30 seconds and thought about how to sort of talk about how that dream came alive. You talked about chasing the dream and how you were able to kind of get the visa and get over here. I would have liked a little bit of the payoff about how it was to actually be here. Leslie, your worst teacher. You spun a great story about this burned out teacher. He was giving irrelevant quizzes. He was making you draw these bad pictures of him. I mean, my suggestion for you is just, again, I harp on it because I think it's so important to take those 30 seconds. They're basically a gift. They're a tool to utilize. And just really hone in, because I wasn't sure at first what field this was. If this was, I imagine it was art. It was an art class of some kind. Oh, okay. And that, and then maybe it was college because you got an art degree, but maybe it was high school. It was hard to tell exactly where it was, so make it more vivid with the details. Jean, education reform. You actually did a fascinating thing, which I really liked at the start. You established your credentials. You said, actually, I've got a degree in this, so I'm very, you didn't say I'm very qualified, but I knew Jean is qualified to talk about this. You talked about the foundations, about the reform and how it structures like a gym and how you start with basic fundamentals and work up to high-level evaluations. I felt like you almost had too much to say about this. You were too qualified almost. With a time, yeah, we were qualified with a time that you had allotted. I mean, you talked about basically, the educational system, how it's like a gym, but then also about the importance of paying female educators more. Both great ideas. Pick one. Finally, art. You wish to learn Spanish earlier, and I love how you gave a vivid example during the presentation about how you mixed Spanish and French and how it kind of caused that conflict in your education. Again, you even stood up and said this. Take those 30 seconds and maybe figure out your closing, how you want to close, either in Spanish or French. Actually, but loved it. Thank you.
Thank you, table topics evaluator. I'd like to call back our general evaluator, Dan Craig.
Thank you, everybody. Will, would you take the camera again?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. At this point, we want to first vote for the best evaluator. We've heard from 3 evaluators. Mr. Timer, did all the evaluators qualify?
We had Jean qualified, and Will did a longer than usual one, so.
How long did he go?
He ran about 10 seconds over 3:30, but he had.
Oh, that's fine. We gave him extra
He
time.
did.
He had 4 minutes. He did 4
So
minutes.
let's take a quick minute and vote for either Jean or Will. All right, now we're ready to go to the role players and get their reports for the meeting. Our first report is going to be from our timer, Dennis.
Thank you, everybody, first of all, for your speeches. I enjoyed it. It was great to have everybody participating today. The report is for our first speech, Emery Styron. His time was 8 minutes and 4 seconds. For our second speech, we had Marco Yannick. His speech was 8 minutes and 6 seconds long. For the first evaluator, Art Atkinson, his time was 3 minutes and 50 seconds. For our second evaluator, Jean Symington Craig, her evaluation took 3 minutes and 27 seconds long. For the table topics evaluator, Will Burns, his evaluation took about 3 minutes and 40 seconds. For the table topics, I took 1 minute and 50 seconds. Alex took 1 minute and 27 seconds. Randy took 3 minutes. Zaina took 2 minutes and 14 seconds. Leslie took 1 minute and 30 seconds. Jean Symington Craig took 2 minutes and 21 seconds. Art Atkinson took 2 minutes and 1 second. That's all. That's the report.
Thank you. Our next report is going to come from Alex. He's giving the grammarians report.
A lot of speaking talent here, and it was really easy to do this. Lewis started off with Sergeant at Arms, and he did use illustrious, run out of gas, light bulb, and I think that he does a really good job of using some of these words to paint a nice picture. Dennis, education, regurgitation, illustrious, and Jean, illustrious twice, and she used the word sabotage ourselves with fear, and I thought sabotage, I really understood what she meant there. She uses the word mental gym. Emery, totality, which was, I knew that he went to go see the eclipse, so I like that he brought that and tied that in with his speech. He used illustrious, invigorated, zit-faced, resilient, lifeless carcass, and we all know what that lizard looked like because he used the best words to describe the situation. Leslie used the word imparted knowledge, and I guess that's what he did, in a way. Marco with pumped, and I always feel so enthusiastic when he speaks. He also threw around the term his ass, and I thought that was unique and kind of unexpected, which was kind of funny. He got the illustrious too. Dan used illustrious. Art illustrious, virtually unanimous. He uses the word chuckles, conjunction, brilliant, eloquently, exaggerate. He's really articulate guy, and I really like listening to him speak. I learn a lot of new words when I'm around him. That concludes my report.
Our next role player who will give a report is Jean Symington Craig. She's the odd counter.
So thank you for pronouncing my name correctly.
I've had
as a-
practice.
Symington. You've had practice, you have. Symington, just so we don't get it going the other direction. All right. Toastmasters, here we go. Lewis, one or ah. Lewis is hard, he's pretty polished, but I caught one. And also a like. With a like. Emery had 2 ands, running things together, that was it. Marco had 1 2 you knows, 1 so, 3 ands. And ands is when they run the sentences together with and, connecting them, and then 1 Xerox. Alex had 1 or ah, and then 1 Xerox. Is that a Xerox? That's a Xerox. It's a when you start and then you start again.
Oh.
Dennis had 1 and. Unbelievable. That was it. Okay.
It's good for my ego.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you were eyeing me too, like, did not put your pen on the paper. Randy had 1 2 ums, 2 so's, 2 ands. If you come another time, you'll get clear on that. So Zaina had 1 1 a number of likes. That seemed to be a favorite word, like, a lot of likes in there. It's like,
I wanted the English word, you know how I talk?
Yes.
I want to translate and what's it like?
Yes.
English.
Yes. And you speak English a lot better than most of us speak Jordanian, is that right? So you get
Yes,
total,
I don't speak English.
yeah, you got total credit. But what we would suggest is instead of saying like, it's kind of cluttering up your meaning, just wait till the word gets there. Okay. So that was that. And then some ands, linking sentences. Leslie, 1 like, 1 you know, 2 so's, and 1 Xerox. Jean, I wrote myself down because I could feel it happening. I don't think I totally got it correct, but I know I said at least 1 or 2 ums. I did a so, and I'm sure I did an and somewhere connecting sentences. Is that correct? You weren't counting? All right. Art did a so and an and. And Will had a lot of material and was moving fast, which is always a challenge. So he had 4 ums, 5 you knows, and 3 Xeroxes, which is hard when you're moving fast to pull the words, but such a good job anyway, it didn't matter. So thank you. That was my report.
I have to say I'm impressed that somebody could be their own counter. Excellent job. And now, it's time for the joke of the evening, or the jokes, over a period of a minute. Let's welcome our joke master, Leslie Hollis.
Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, honored guests and viewers at home. What are you in the mood for? Something silly or something slightly,
Lay it on.
slightly
Pick.
crass? So, a guy walks into a doctor's office and he swallowed 8 plastic horses. But don't worry, his condition is now stable. Guy walks into a doctor's office and he said, "Doctor, I feel like a deck of cards." The doctor said, "Just sit over there, I'll deal with you later."
It's my turn at this point, I believe, to give a quick evaluation of the evaluators. Our first evaluator was Art, who was giving an evaluation of Emery's talk. I thought that Art did a very nice job of pointing out good things that Emery accomplished in his project. And I thought he listened very carefully and came up with everything that I would have. I especially liked his suggestion to exaggerate. Linked in with that is my suggestion to Art. When you shouted out those lines, you surprised us all so thoroughly. It was really great. But one of the reasons that the surprise was so great is because the rest of your talk was too quiet. So I would like you to dial up the general body, and I think the shout will still be a nice surprise. Jean evaluated Marco, and I noticed a number of things that could be praised in her presentation. I like that she said at the beginning, what I'm going to tell you is my personal opinion. We say that a lot, but it's nice to say that at the beginning of an evaluation. I also noted good gestures, moving on the stage. She followed the manual, she had good eye contact, good humor, good vocal variety. So many good things about just giving a good natural talk. I thought one thing you could have done differently or added into your evaluation was at the point where you gave suggestions and you suggested that he give, in the beginning of the talk, a preview of what he was going to talk about. The thing that I would suggest that you do for him at that point is go ahead and give him the specific example. I think that would have been a little stronger. Then Will doing the table topics. A lot of fun. He did it with a lot of energy. I really liked that he came up and said, we're going to get right to it. And he just plunged in. He went this person and this person and this person. He gave a suggestion for everyone. He gave a praise for everyone. Very nicely done. I thought the other really good thing that you accomplished was, even though you were going fast, you connected with each person. And I thought each person thought that you were giving them good feedback. The only thing that I would have had you do differently is slow down a little bit. The energy was good, but you're actually going even faster than you needed to. And if you had to go that fast, you could have just said, give me a minute. All in all, very, very good job. Wonderful evaluators. We could all learn a lot from the way that they evaluated tonight. So, thank you. At this point, I'm going to introduce our Toastmaster, who's going to present the awards. Here's Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. Wasn't that a great meeting?
Yes.
Yeah. So first, we have our best table topic speaker. And the winner is Art Atkinson. Vamos up. There you go, my friend.
Thank you.
Good job. And next, our best evaluator, Will Burns. Good job. And drum roll for the best speaker of the prepared speeches tonight. And the winner is Emery Styron.
Jean doesn't want me to have a ribbon
You guys need to, they
because I
went over
spoke
time,
too
they
long.
have to get a ribbon.
Oh, they don't get a ribbon?
No, 'cause they-
Oh, ha ha, you don't get a ribbon.
You know,
I'm not shaking hands.
Take a seat. So that concludes our the speaking part of our meeting, and I'd like to call up Dennis, our president. Now that was a false start. By the way, false start I think is when you start and have to start again like I just did.
Okay.
And I think a Xerox is when you say the same thing twice. When you say the same thing twice.
I think-
When you say the same thing twice.
Because you started again, that's a Xerox also.
I think it's kind of like when you have a hiccup is kind of the false start.
We'll have to discuss.
Yeah, we'll
I
have
don't hear, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, Dennis.
Next week, we're going to have a competition for the best definition of false start and Xerox.
Yeah, exactly.
Mr. President!
Speaking of that, with competition, we do have business to talk about with that. As a recap, I'll just start with a recap really quick about it. We do have 2 categories that there is going to be the contest based on. One is humorous speeches, and the other is evaluation. For those of you who have got, you guys should all have got the email who are in as members of the rules. So check that link for details on rules for now. And if there are any other questions, talk to me after the meeting about rules in specific, or we can also exchange emails about it. As a recap on the schedule right now, on the 12th of September, which is a Tuesday, we'll be having our club contest right here. The following week, on the 19th of September, we will be having our area contest. So the winners of this club contest will advance to that one. And that will be right here. We'll be hosting that one. And the division contest right now is scheduled for September 30th. However, it's been brought up to my attention that that is a holiday. It is Yom Kippur from the 29th to the 30th of September. I don't think it's fair to have a contest at that time, in my opinion, because that would make it unfair to people who want to be spectators, who want to be participating, and who could be competing as contestants. So I did make a motion, and I did talk about it with our division director about that, to see if we can move that to a different date potentially. I'm hoping they will accept that, but I cannot guarantee it at the moment. So we will see how that goes. I'll keep you guys posted on that. So right now, it is the 30th of September is what's scheduled. That date could move if I'm able to convince them to move it. So hopefully it will. We will see. In discussing that, in discussion with that, I was thinking potentially we could move it to the week after, if it would work well for them. Are there any scheduling conflicts that anybody can think of? If I would suggest, I suggested to them, let's do it 1 week later. Are there any objections or any scheduling conflicts you guys may have? Any other major events, holidays, or anything like that that could be missing? Not yet. Okay. Please let me know though. Send me an email if there's anything that comes up in terms of scheduling, and I'll keep you guys posted on how that goes, since I'm discussing that with the division director.
Have you got the contest chair and chief judge and so on?
Not all picked. No.
Club contest?
That's something I actually have on my list to do ASAP throughout this week, throughout the end of this week. Since I've been putting quite a decent amount, I think towards the end of this week and this weekend, I'm going to be trying to focus more time on that as my time frees up. Yep.
I just want to make a suggestion. You might just see who is planning to compete in which contest, because that will definitely, those people cannot obviously be judges in that contest or contest chairs or anything, so that might help narrow down your choice a little bit there.
Yeah, actually, that's a really good point. I think both of you are making. If we could just, whoever is planning on competing, you guys can talk to me right after the meeting, and then I can make a tally of that, and then we can plan according. I would like to talk, especially with Eugene and those who are more experienced with being Toastmasters, with you, Lewis, too, and potentially with Rick also, about making sure that will go smooth. Is there any business? Are there any more issues to discuss?
One more joke.
No, we don't have
Okay. Is there any more business for now?
We gotta
Nope.
get out of here too.
Okay. I would like to, first of all, and most importantly though, I'm glad that you guys came as guests, and I'm glad to have you guys. It's really interesting hearing your table topics. You guys like to summarize what you thought about the meeting and everything?
Yeah, it's nice for me. I like it, and like I get impressed when the evaluator, like how they found all these things in for a speech that's like short, 4 minutes. It's like that's impressive. Find all these comments.
Yeah, thanks, Zena. I'm glad to have you guys, and it's really good that you're talking about being able to advance when some people may have not, say, encouraged you in the past to advance your education, and now you're doing the right thing. You're learning a new culture. You're learning more and more. So that's inspiring. Thank you. What do you
I
think,
thought
Randy?
it was valuable. I learned some things that I hadn't thought about in the process of public speaking that appear that you have to be aware of. And I hope I can utilize that knowledge.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, it was really good to hear everything too, with all you're talking about the teacher and his humility and everything. So, I appreciate that. Is there any more business to discuss? If that is the case, I declare this meeting adjourned.